Southern California, welcome to Money Matters with Dino. Saturdays from noon to 1, right here on Power Players Radio, KTLK AM1150. Do you own a home or have plans to in the future? You'll get all the information you need to know about what's happening in the local real estate market and how to take advantage of that knowledge. How to approach home ownership or mortgage financing with design, vision, and focus, as well as accurate information. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, listen to Money Matters with Dino right here on Power Players Radio, KTLK AM1150.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Dino on K-Talk AM1150. If you have any questions for me or my guests, or if you need help with your money, give us a call at 949-720-1616. That's 949-720-1616, or check us out online at moneymatterswithdino.com. From your estate to real estate, we're here to help. This segment is brought to you by CFAM Credit Solutions. CFAM Credit Solutions is a credit repair company that I have used many times in the past for my clients. And guys, these are the ones that if you have like that $29 cable bill from college that you forgot to pay, or something your wife forgot to pay, or whatever the situation is, don't let your low credit scores affect how much you're paying on interest rates and stuff like that. There are solutions. Go to my website, moneymatterswithdino.com. They're right there on the homepage. Just click through and get a hold of them. They'll help you out. So joining us today on our panel discussion with the experts is trust and estate planning attorney Robin Bentler and certified financial planner Bart Zanbergen. Today our topic is expect the best, but be prepared for anything with proper financial and estate planning. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Robin, let's start with you. Before we jump into our topic, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a trust and estate attorney. Been practicing now for 22 years. Spent a few years doing a little bit of litigation work, just enough to know that I don't want to do it anymore. And the last 20 years or so have been almost exclusively in the trust and estate and tax field. By education-wise, of course, we've got the undergrad degree, I've got my law degree, but I've also got a master's degree in the laws of taxation from the University of Florida, which is an advanced law degree, just giving us the foundation that really helps us give good, solid advice on advanced planning strategies.
Would that be similar to being like a CPA, for example?
Actually, it's more intensive than that. It is just a year of nothing but studying the laws of federal taxation, which is trust and estate, income, corporate, international, just the different tax fields.
Wow.
And in our firm, we've got another attorney, my senior associate, has also got a master's in taxation. My partner has a CPA license in addition to his law degree. So from a trust and estate and tax planning perspective, we've got some bases covered.
It sure sounds like it. And your office is over here in Irvine, California, right? By John Wayne Airport.
That's correct. That's my main office.
Excellent. Bart, how about you, sir?
Yeah.
Certified financial planner. Your office is, I think, down in Mission Viejo,
Correct.
Orange County, right?
Right.
Tell us about your background.
Well, I'm also 22 years in the business, same firm. Excuse me. We manage about $500 million as a firm. Our specialty is overall financial planning, which includes tax planning, investment planning, and just really overall net worth and wealth advisory planning.
Okay, great. Well, if you guys are okay with it, let's just jump right into the questions. We got a bunch of great questions here, and I think the listeners are going to want to listen up to this because there are not only strategies on how to do things to set yourself up for, businesses, potential divorces, but also for death. And these are just important. You got to protect yourself. You got to protect your family. So, Robin, let's start with you. In estate planning, for example, I'm a huge believer in estate planning because I want my wife and children to be protected if something ever happens to me. Attorneys always talk about trust, and can you explain to us what a trust is? What's it used for, and what are the advantages to having one?
Surely. A trust is actually one of the tools we use in estate planning. It's not necessarily something that everybody needs, but most of us do need. And really a trust in simplest terms is just a manner of basically owning assets. If I handed you a $20 bill and asked you to hold it, preserve it, protect it, and give it to my kid on his 15th birthday, and you agreed to do that, between you, me, my son, and a $20 bill, that is the simplest trust we can create. And if we look at that structure, if I died tomorrow and the question was, gosh, Dino, what do you do with that $20 bill now that Robin's gone? The answer is pretty simple. You agreed to hold it, preserve it, protect it, and give it to my kid when he's 15. And that is a trust. And if I died there, you didn't need to go to court to get a judge's signature, and you knew you could hold that money until my son was old enough and ready for it. I could have said age 35. I could have come up with other criteria for when that money is distributed to my son. That's effectively what a trust is. Because you're holding these assets as a trustee, managing it for my son, we don't need to go to court to get a judge's signature, which is effectively what we're doing in a 1.5-year long probate process. If you think of probate as a long, expensive process to get that judge's signature, you've got it down.
So how is that different from a will? Does a judge need to execute the will then?
Absolutely, actually, and this is a big misnomer. A lot of people walk into my office and think, well, gosh, we're not going to have to go to court, go through probate because I have a will. And really, the will is only valid and effective in a probate court. The judge is the one reading the will and implementing that strategy. Whatever you wrote down in that will, give my assets to.
Got it. And is there a particular net worth somebody should have or needs to have, or is a trust advised for most everybody?
Well, clearly somebody with more assets is going to receive more benefit. On the other hand, whether you're extremely wealthy or whether you're starting out, your asset is a condominium and maybe a $1 million life insurance policy. The reality is that person planning for their infant, the issues and the importance is just as important for that person with the smaller estate. They're not doing it for tax planning purposes. They're doing it to make sure everything's managed properly for their kid. So the benefits increase as we get wealthier, but in terms of the importance of planning for our kids, it really doesn't matter if all we have is a life insurance policy or whether we have $10 million in straight-up assets. Okay. We're trying to plan.
So you brought up, for our kids, and I get that part of it, but let me ask you this. With divorce being so prevalent in our society, does that protect them at all from a potential future divorce that they may have?
Well, protect is an interesting word, and if I say yes, then it implies that we've got some built-in protection here. What it does is, and again, let me back up and kind of lay a little foundation, is if we have a trust in advance of marriage and it owns assets that we consider our separate property, things we own prior to marriage, and we continue to maintain that property in a separate trust, it really does illustrate and show that we intend to maintain our separate assets and maintain the separate characterization of those assets. So it helps there, and to the extent it helps, that does offer some protection.
Okay. Bart, how about you? Is life insurance completely separate from a will?
Yeah, I would say there's two completely different things. The will is something that you would implement to give direction as to what you would want to happen upon your demise, and a life insurance is there to help fund what you would want to happen.
So basically, if anything happens to you and you had life insurance, there's a sum of money that goes somewhere. The will is the direction of where it's going to go.
Correct.
Okay. Bart, I remember in high school a financial planner coming into my class and talking about compounding interest. I don't remember the specifics, but he did showed us that the difference between starting a long-term investing at the age of 25 versus 30, and how massive of a difference it was. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, sure. You would have been very well advised to take his advice back then.
At 25?
At 25, sure. So let's assume for a second we can earn 8%. And if a 25-year-old was investing $200 a month, at age 65, they'd have about $725,000
for $200 a month.
$200 a month. Now, if that same person would start at 30, they'd have about $500,000.
Wow!
So that's about a 50% difference. And interestingly, Albert Einstein was once asked, "What's the greatest invention of all mankind?" And he answered back without hesitation, "Compound interest." And I think this is a good example.
That's great. Do they have any classes that are specifically for kids? Like at a certain age, this is when you should start teaching them that, because $200 a month isn't that much. Like, there's got to be a way to just ingrain this in kids' head that they just got to start doing it.
I don't know of any classes in high school. I know that recently there was a book published by a couple of surf kids in San Clemente, and it's all about the things that they don't teach you in high school, and this was certainly one of the things, and it's the gift that I give out now when I have clients and friends whose kids are graduating.
Okay, great. So why would someone choose to establish a life insurance trust?
Well, first of all, The proceeds of life insurance are always state and federal and state tax-free. They are not estate tax-free. So by creating the life insurance trust, if you have an estate that's large enough that is subject to estate tax, the life insurance will actually exclude the assets of the insurance from your estate and thereby from the estate tax as well.
Okay. Something few people understand is power of attorney, but when they suffer from an illness or accident, it's invaluable. Tell us how you would set up a power of attorney that makes your clients feel secure. And Robin, assuming that's you, right?
That's definitely a me question. And you actually have two forms of power of attorney. One is a financial power of attorney. And basically what you're doing is you're giving somebody the power to sign as if they're you for financial matters if you're incapacitated. So if you fell down in the shower, bumped your head, and you're unconscious for a period of time, and somebody needs to sign your tax return, that financial power of attorney is appointing and empowering the person you've designated to do that on your behalf. And the other document is an advanced healthcare directive, and what we're doing at that point is making some of our wishes known as to how we'd want to be cared for if we couldn't make those decisions ourselves. Right. And again, empowering somebody to make those decisions to provide informed consent so a doctor can actually provide care and treatment.
Yeah, I'm curious on the medical one. Do most people have their spouse as the power of attorney or someone else?
Almost universally, the spouse is the first choice.
Is it really?
Yeah.
It's interesting. When I did mine and for my parents, I chose not to let, I shouldn't say I chose, I asked my parents and I suggested that they do not do it for one another, that they let me do it and tell me their wishes, because I wouldn't want my mother to be emotional about a decision that would potentially affect her, all the rest of her life, or not be able to make a decision because of the emotional distress. And it seems, I don't know, to me it just seems more logical to have somebody else do it, but I guess the majority of the people just have their spouse do it, huh?
The majority is a spouse, but consistent with what you've done there, I've been genuinely concerned about the decisions my wife would make on my behalf. And I don't think she's going to push me out the door too fast. I think she's not going to push me out the door fast enough. I mean, there are times when, me personally and an awful lot of people like me, would say, okay, the gig is up, it's time to move on, let me go. And I think she would probably be inclined to subject me to every imaginable hell and test if she thinks there's a chance it's going to help me through.
That's great. If you just jumped into your car, you're listening to Money Matters with Dino on KTalk AM1150, and we're discussing expect the best, but be prepared for anything with proper financial and estate planning. If you missed any part of the show, it's going to be on our website at moneymatterswithdino.com or on our YouTube channel on Power Players Radio. In the meantime, though, if you want to get a hold of myself or my guests, you can call us at 949-720-1616. That's 949-720-1616. All right, how diversified should someone's portfolio really be?
That's a good question. I do believe there is something that over-diversification is not good. But at the same time, I think that the essential asset classes are required. And, it really breaks down to three in broadest senses. One would be equities. So that's basically stock or ownership in mutual funds that invest in stock. The other is fixed income. Now, that might be CDs, might be money market, or might be bonds. And then lastly, a growing in importance, at least, is what we call alternative investments as an asset class. And in that group, I might group real estate, I would group hard assets, energy, those sort of things.
Okay. I know this is a lengthy question, this is going to be, but I want to break it down because I know there's a lot of confusion out there with people. But Bart, what's the difference between term life, whole life, variable life, and universal life? I mean, my goodness, what are they?
Yeah, we could, in essence, spend a whole show on that, but I'll try to keep it down. So the two major categories are term insurance and cash value insurance. So term insurance, just picture that like your, for all intents and purposes, like your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance. You're going to have insurance as long as you pay the premium. And generally, you'll get it in increments of 10 years, 10, 20, or 30 years. And typically, at the end of that term, the policy doesn't necessarily expire, but by design, the premium goes up 20, 30, 40, 50-fold. So by design, the company, the insurance carrier is basically saying, you're not going to pay for this anymore. We really don't want you anymore.
Got it.
At the end of the day, term policies only pay.
Basically, you're getting a little bit older, and
That's exactly
going
right.
to kick you out.
And the reality is, term insurance policies don't pay about 95, 96% of the time, because people will live a normal life expectancy beyond the term of the insurance. But there is a place for it. I'll explain that. So under the category of cash value insurance, the other policies fall into place. Variable life, variable universal life, relatively new fixed indexed life. So cash value life insurance, in its broadest sense, is the ability to, you pay a premium, a portion of that premium goes to pay for the insurance, a portion of the premium goes into a cash account.
Okay.
Now, the different types of policies will dictate how that cash is invested. For example, a variable universal life, you can invest in separate accounts that are much like mutual funds. In a universal life, the insurance company gets a little bit more aggressive than they would in a typical, what we would say in the old school days, more whole life, which was very, very conservative.
Right.
So those are all three cash value types. The benefits, I think, in the long run is if someone has a permanent insurance need, the only way to take care of that need is with a cash value insurance. I typically design so the premiums are paid until the client is 65 years old. We design it so that by the 65th birthday, they're done paying premium, and they now have life insurance guaranteed for the rest of their life. It comes in real handy when there's an estate tax issue, if there's some survivorship needs that need to be taken care of. And then what I would typically do is layer term policy. I'll use myself for example. I still have a big mortgage. I have kids that are now grown, but now I have grandkids, and there's some needs that I need to take care of that are higher in these earlier years. So I have a couple of term policies that will take me till about age 70, 75, and then in addition to that, I have a permanent policy that will last the rest of my life. So should I be blessed to live past 75, those policies will fall off, and I'll still have a couple $1 million left to pay estate tax or take care of my wife.
So I have a ton of questions there, because I find that part real fascinating. I've been told, so many different ways, and I think the problem, like me being in the mortgage business, every time somebody's buying a home, they come to me as the professional, but then they sit around the coffee pot at work and they hear some BS advice from people that don't know anything about, really buying a home in that asset class. I'm guessing something very similar happens in this situation, and most people really just don't know the true breakdown of how all these things work. And I want to, get a little bit more into it right after the break. So just hang on if you could with us. You're listening to Money Matters with Dino on KTalk AM1150. If you have any questions at all about your mortgage, current rates, or any kind of program that's available out there now, or you just like to get in touch with our panel of experts, we're here to help you. Give us a call. We're at 949-720-1616. That's 949-720-1616. From your estate to real estate, we're here to help. Stick with us after the break. We'll continue our panel discussion with our experts. Our topic today is expect the best, but be prepared for anything with financial investment and estate planning. In the meantime, think about how you can use this information to protect your investments. And as always, don't just get real estate rich, get rich. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're a business owner or have a high net worth, it's important you have the proper insurance coverages. However, from a financial standpoint, it's even more important to have someone else pay the premiums for you. That's right, it's called insurance premium financing. In short, it means we use a combination of loans and secured assets to fund the payment of your premiums for your life insurance coverage. With this unique program, there's no need to pay expensive annual insurance premiums or estate taxes out of pocket or out of your company's cash flow. Your assets remain intact, protected from creditors, while your family and business receive the security they need. I'll bet you'd like more information. Simply call James Burns at 866-544-8825. That's 866-544-8825. Or go to whitediamondinsurance.com.
Finally, a reputable legal firm. CDA Law Center, a nationally recognized nonprofit homeowner advocate, one of the most trusted firms in the country for helping consumers with their loan modification process. CDA's attorneys have decades of combined experience guiding their clients through the very complex and choppy waters of loan modification. Call 877-499-4435, 877-499-4435. Finally, honest and ethical advice to gain real results. Call CDA Law Center at 877-499-4435. That's 877-499-4435, or check them out online at cdalawcenter.com.
Mortgage professionals, are you looking for a company that values you as a loan officer? One that can provide you with the tools you need to grow your business at your pace? Then look no further than CHL Mortgage. CHL Mortgage provides you with a full range of residential loan products and services. You'll be backed by an exceptionally trained team of professionals that can take your clients as seriously as you do. Your clients will be treated with dedicated service, personal integrity, and exceptional professionalism. You'll be able to guide them in the right loan with competitive rates and keep them on the road to achieving life's goals. To get started on advancing your career, call Dino with CHL Mortgage at 949-720-1616. That's CHL Mortgage, 949-720-1616.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Dino. If you have any questions for me or my guests, or if you need help with your money matters, give me a call. 949-720-1616. That's 949-720-1616. Or you can check us out online at moneymatterswithdino.com. This next segment is brought to you by Citywide Home Loans, bringing you low rates, specials on closing costs, and exceptional service. I'm just going to go ahead and say, with the bloodbath we had in the market this past week, the low rates thing, they're still low, but anytime you hear another advertisement that says all-time low rates, get rid of them. They're not telling the truth. They've gone up. They're no longer the all-time low. But if you're on the fence or you have questions, call me, because there's still great programs out there to be had, and it's times like this that you need to be dealing with a true professional. Our team here at Citywide Home Loans is exactly that. They're true professionals. So we're in the middle of our panel discussion with the experts, and if you're just tuning in, our topic is expect the best, but be prepared for anything with financial investment and estate planning. All right, so Bart, before we broke for the commercial, we talked about what the differences are between term life, whole life, variable life, and universal life, and you broke it down for us, which I appreciated, because really there's kind of two, and then there's a few that fall within. I guess my big question is so I don't have to spend any money somewhere and I can trust somebody that comes highly recommended here. What does a guy like me do? I'm 42 years old. I have 3 young children, 8 and under, and I'm the sole breadwinner in my family. And I have term life, and I have what I thought was whole or maybe universal. It's one of those cash value ones.
Okay.
But I don't truly understand it. But what kind of a breakdown should I have?
Okay. So one thing on your whole life or universal, whatever that might be, as I had indicated earlier, it does accumulate cash. And one of the things that I didn't mention yet is there is some additional benefit to that, in that is accessible to you on a tax-free basis. So it can serve a multiple purpose. If you have a need for insurance, it can serve the need for insurance as well as an additional savings program for you. If you've had the program long enough, one of your existing programs, we should probably take a look, have someone take a look or analyze it. If it's performing well, you want to keep it. If not, you have the ability to do a 1035 exchange from one life insurance policy into another, perhaps one that may have some better performance. We won't know until we take a look. But ultimately, I think in your case, we live in Orange County lifestyle. You'll probably have a net worth someday that's going to have some sort of estate tax issues. So I think while your kids are young, you'll probably want some 20 and 30-year term policies to cover your immediate expenses, to cover the kids' college expenses and so forth, take care of your wife, pay off your mortgage and so forth. Again, that will probably terminate or expire 20 or 30 years from now, so figure you're 62 or 72. Then we take a look at your universal or your whole life, make sure it's appropriate for you. If not, we roll it into another one, which is, but yet it is still permanent, to make sure that it has what's relatively new. It's called the no lapse guarantee, that no matter what happens in this market, the bond market, the stock market, you will have life insurance for the remainder of your life. So that if you do live a normal life expectancy or beyond, your wife will have some money to help her survive, and or that money can be used to help pay estate tax, and or the money that's in cash value you could use as a additional income source during your retirement.
Let me ask this question: Is it a good idea, or am I even going along the right line here to think of it as a college fund for my children?
If it's the right cash value policy, a whole life policy, I would say no. A variable universal policy that uses mutual funds, yes. If the kids are young enough and there's enough time for it to season, I would say yes.
Okay. And Robin, I'm just going to go for the free advice again. Here I am again, 42 years old, 3 kids, sole breadwinner, and I should have a trust, not only to protect my assets from anything that might happen, but for my children. If I had a trust and I were to unfortunately pass, if my wife finally got my blood pressure higher than it should be, and it just happened one day, for example, how would I set that trust up to protect my children, to make sure that money is there, not only for now while I'm not earning, but also for later, so they can go to school, so they can get started on the right foot?
Kind of like we were just hearing, there are different types of insurance for different types of needs and sort of phases. Do we need it for estate tax, which means we need that permanent policy? Do we need it more immediately? So, if somebody walks into my office and they've got 3 kids under the age of 8, we're going to be looking at that balance sheet and making sure, from a macro sense, I'm not a financial analyst, I'm not a financial advisor, that's not my job, but from a macro sense, we want to make sure it looks like we've got enough money to make sure those kids are okay. You can provide for college educations, make sure that all their growing up expenses and everything else are covered. You don't want your wife to have to go back to work just because the breadwinner is gone. You want to make sure there's enough money there that she can continue to raise those kids who are going to need her more than ever. So at an estate planning level, when we have young kids, our concern is more immediate. I want to make sure that the trust, which again can live beyond my lifetime, is holding on to money, making sure my kids' living needs are all covered, making sure the kids' education expenses are all covered, making sure my kids are okay, all the things I would do if I'm there to provide for them as a father. And as the kids start getting a little bit older, the day you meet the first young man who's going to be or could be your future son-in-law, our issues and needs and concerns start to change. We've talked about prenuptial agreements, and the reality is a very significant percentage of marriages don't make it. And one of the questions I ask my clients, which is admittedly a little provocative, which is, how would you feel, if one day the money you left your kid was ever to be split with a future ex-son-in-law or ex-daughter-in-law? How do you feel about money being mixed up in that marriage, and then that ex takes it?
So can I establish all that in the trust to make sure that doesn't happen? And I guess that's a great in for the child to have to get a prenup, right?
Well, and actually, for some of the very wealthy clients where we have tremendous amounts of wealth, the concern is not so much always about what are they going to earn, but it's, gosh, I'm leaving my kid X million dollars, and I want to make sure that it's protected for them forever. And prenup may not be needed if the estate planning is done properly. And actually, this is probably the area where you have the biggest deficiency in planning for most people. Most trusts that are out there say, I'm going to give my kid money in 3 steps, a little bit at 25, a little bit at 30, and the balance at age 35. And that's the way 99% of trusts are drafted. And I bet you if any of your listeners went and pulled out their documents and read it, it's going to be sure enough, yep, a little bit at 25, a little bit at 30, balance at 35. Maybe we move it back or forward 5 years.
Right.
The way I draft almost all the trusts I draft, even for the larger clients and even for the smaller clients, is let's, instead of giving the money to the kids at age 35 or whatever age, let's have the money stay in the Dino Family Trust, FBO, for benefit of child number 1. And whatever you've allocated there stays in trust. And until they're 35, until you tell me you think they're old enough to manage things themselves, we'll have somebody appointed to take care of everything, presupposing you're gone, right?
Gotcha.
But at that age 35, instead of giving them money so that their creditors can take it away, we say, you know what, let's just keep it in the trust, and we'll let that kid take over control, manage it, use it as they see fit, invest it any way they want, designate who gets it one day, which really, if you think about it, is all the benefits of ownership. It's the ability to use it as we see fit, invest it any way we want, designate who gets it. Those are the benefits of ownership, and we can give a kid that in a trust.
Okay, we've talked about how to protect our children with the future, the unknown future, I guess is the right way to say it. But what if my beautiful young wife decides to get remarried after I somehow mysteriously pass? What kind of protection would my children have then?
Okay, this is actually another huge problem, and it's amazing how many.
Huge problem.
It's a huge problem if it's not addressed. How's that? It's amazing how many people do remarry, and in the last 60 days of their life, they're taken to an attorney and they change everything, leave it all to the new wife to the exclusion of the kids. A properly drafted trust is going to protect whatever is your share of the estate, half of the community, and anything that was your separate property. And basically, it leaves everything in trust, and it's there for your wife for the rest of her life. So she's not excluded, if she's taken care of completely. But the only thing she can't do is change your ultimate beneficiaries. So one day when she too leaves the planet, you know that your assets are passing down to your kids and not a new spouse or issue of a new spouse.
Yoko Ono. Sorry, go ahead.
You had to, huh? Well, okay, we briefly touched upon prenups earlier as you were talking about. What things are important regarding prenups? What should somebody have in there?
Okay, a prenup is basically an agreement that says we don't want California community property laws to default in. We want to actually define our own rights and interests. And for clients that are high earners getting married, we may want to look to limit potential future spousal support obligations. For people with more significant assets, even businesses, we want to make sure that what is ours is ours. So, what you're looking for, particularly the family business, if you've got your business and you're getting married and you want to make sure that if things don't work, that you don't have to end up buying out half of your business back from your future ex-spouse. A prenuptial agreement can protect that business interest. There are a lot of things we can define and protect, limit spousal support, things of that nature.
Is there much of a need for one if you're not self-employed?
Well, it becomes a function of how much are you earning and what do your assets look like. If you've got somebody who's not self-employed but still earning very substantial money and you don't want to be on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars of spousal support liability claims and you want to limit that, then there's still some benefit to be had from that prenuptial agreement.
So I hear constantly before the 10-year mark, that's when if things aren't going right, you got to make that move before the 10-year mark. Otherwise, you're paying for life. Can a prenup avoid paying for life if it's been longer than 10 years?
Absolutely. Basically, again, you're able to define some of the rules that are going to apply to you. And that 10-year rule is not a stead, hard, fast rule. It's basically a discretionary thing where the court can order lifetime support, but you can limit the term of spousal support. Very common, you'll see, is irrespective of length of marriage, half a year for each year of marriage. So if you're married for 20 years, you're paying for 10 years as opposed to for life.
Got it. Bart, I got a question for you, and I'm gonna ask it, but I'm gonna ask you to hold because we have to go to break.
Okay.
But just so you know what you're gonna come back to, how do you use annuities to set up an income stream at retirement? You're listening to Money Matters with Dino on K-Talk AM 1150. We have estate planning attorney Robin Bentler and certified financial planner Bart Zanbergen. And we are talking about expect the best, but be prepared for anything with financial investment and estate planning. Guys, this is fantastic content here. We are really getting some good free advice. And if you have any interest in this kind of stuff, I'm telling you what, you got to call because these guys are here and they're willing to talk to you and help you out. Our phone number is 949-720-1616. That's 949-720-1616. Or you can check us out online at moneymatterswithdino.com. You can also look on our Facebook page and we'll have all their information right there for you as well. We'll be back right after the break.